So I bet that most of you guys didn't know that a bunch of Fox News personalities were just deposed in an interesting case that we're about to witness unfold. So this is in Deadline. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Lou Dobbs to be deposed in Dominion lawsuit against Fox News. So Dominion is one of the voting machine companies of which there were a zillion conspiracy theories about in the 2020 election. And instead of sitting around and letting people tarnish their name relentlessly and maliciously, they actually took legal action. Now, I think they also went after Dominion and Smartmatic, like a few of these companies went after, I think, One America News Network, maybe Newsmax as well, and got to the point where there was some sort of a settlement where you had hosts that were on those networks who were spreading the falsehoods had to come out and basically like apologize and say, there's no evidence of any of the things that I have said, and there's no reason to believe any of these. So they had to do the whole like tail between your legs, go out there and apologize to avoid, this going further, to avoid losing a shitload of money and maybe even tanking your own network, right? So anyway, let me give you the specifics on this. Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Lou Dobbs are among the current and former Fox News personalities facing depositions in Dominion Voting Systems' $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against the network. With a trial on the docket for next April, both sides in the case have been in the midst of discovery, with Jeanine Pirro and Steve Doocy also among the Fox News figures on Dominion's list for depositions. That's interesting to me. Jeanine Pirro is a total psycho. Steve Doocy seems to have moved away from the dominant Fox News narratives recently. In fact, he seems to be sort of pro the FBI going after Trump, which is an interesting face turn for somebody on Fox News. Who knows if this case maybe had something to do with him changing his tune, thinking like, okay, these people are psycho. We're facing a $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit, so maybe I should reel it in a little bit. But of course, that's all speculation. I don't know why he's changed his mind a little bit recently, but he certainly is doing that. Hannity is set to be deposed on Wednesday, according to the New York Times, which first reported on the court filing. Carlson is scheduled for Friday, and Lou Dobbs on Tuesday, according to court records. Dobbs' show was canceled in February 2021, and he was named with Fox News among the defendants in a separate defamation lawsuit filed by another election company, Smartmatic. So look, I don't know, since Dobbs is no longer with the company, I don't know if now he has to pay for his own lawyers, or if Fox News is still going to pay for it because he was under contract. I don't know, but look, my guess is Lou Dobbs was probably one of the worst offenders among all the offenders, because that dude is fucking psycho, and he's gone full Trump ball gargler mode. I mean, this guy, he loves caressing Trump's taint in front of the world. It is a very, very sad thing to see. So he probably was one of the chief proponents of these conspiracy theories. Dominion sued Fox News for $1.6 billion in March 2021. Claiming that the network sold a false story of election fraud, arguing that the network amplified through its personalities and guests claims that Dominion rigged the results in favor of Joe Biden and against Donald Trump. Dominion claims that as Fox News lost viewers following the 2020 election to outlets that endorsed Trump's election lie, they sought to get viewers back by intentionally and falsely blaming Dominion for President Trump's loss by rigging the election. Now that's interesting. My guess is since they're bringing this lawsuit, they have, myriad evidence to this effect. But what I will say is there's no way that Fox was as bad as One America News and Newsmax. But, I mean, I'm sure they're going to bring a lot to the table here to show, hey, not only is this wrong, not only is this bad, it is actively malicious. What they're doing is malicious. They continue. In a statement, Fox News Media said, "We are confident we will prevail as freedom of the press is foundational to our democracy and must be protected. In addition to the damages claims being outrageous, unsupported, and not rooted in sound financial analysis, serving as nothing more than a flagrant attempt to deter our journalists from doing their job." Earlier this summer, the Delaware judge Eric M. Davis ruled that a separate Dominion case against Fox Corporation could move forward, raising the prospect that Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch will be deposed. Smartmatic sued Fox News, Dobbs, Pirro, and Maria Bartiromo, as well as guests Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell in a $2.7 billion claim last year. The Smartmatic case also in the midst of discovery, and Smartmatic attorneys have recently been subpoenaing figures including former Attorney General William Barr and Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel for documents related to their claim. Okay, so look, in terms of the specific claims that were made, they would argue, and I'm not joking about this, this is not an exaggeration, this is not hyperbole, they argued that, certainly on One American News Network and Newsmax, I don't know if Fox went this deep, but they argued that Venezuela and Maduro were rigging the vote count in real time to give the election to Joe Biden. There's a real argument that was made by people like Sidney Powell, too, for example, who at one point was providing legal advice to President Trump. Just totally psycho, just out of their minds, right? These became mainstream arguments on the right. And you had, on Facebook, they would have these memes of just the most insane things you've ever heard of in regards to the election. And none of it was true. None of it was true. 60-plus court cases where Trump was trying to overturn certain states, he won none of them. I mean, he won some procedural cases, like 1 or 2, but over 60 cases, he lost. He lost them. The Arizona audit, they thought, oh no, Trump really won Arizona, and this audit will prove it. Not only did Biden win, he won by more than he won by on Election Day. So he actually had a bigger lead than what we thought on Election Day. You had every single insider in the Trump administration who had any ounce of honesty and integrity in them were like, no, there's no evidence for any of this stuff that you guys are talking about, so you're going to lose and you're crazy. People like Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani were steering the ship and steering it right into a rock. And, the crazies followed the other crazies off the cliff. It was the blind leading the blind. Now, again, Newsmax and One American News Network already have been sued, and there's already been some sort of settlement on that front. Now they're going after the big dog, Fox News. I don't know how this is going to unfold. Look, I do think it's a very high bar to clear when it comes to defamation. It needs to be, you need to not only say the wrong thing, but it needs to be malicious, and you might need to know that it's malicious. It's a weird standard because you're talking about a company now versus, an individual. There's one standard versus, private individuals versus public individuals. The public individual bar, like a celebrity bar, is much higher for defamation. I don't know what it is for companies specifically, but I think they would have to prove, hey, not only did you say things that were wrong, it was malicious and you knew it was wrong. So that might be hard to prove, but you never know. They might, just to save money, Fox might say, hey, look, we'll settle with you out of court. And maybe they'll throw them $200 million or $300 million or some shit. And that's if, the companies accept that. But either way, I mean, to have these big name hosts being deposed, it's a fascinating thing to see. And we might get it publicly at some point, which would be really interesting. Because remember, we had all the Alex Jones depositions publicly, and they were amazing to watch. My guess is that the Fox hosts will have their shit together a little bit better than Alex Jones did. But I'd still love to see it because I want to get a sense of who knew they were full of shit and lying and who actually believed it. Because the Fox hosts you would think are smart enough to they know it's bullshit, but they ran with it anyway, which would maybe help the defamation argument more. That might, cut in the direction of the companies. But look, I guess we'll find out and see. But this is a big deal. And it also might be one of those things that the next time we're faced with a situation like this, you genuinely might have an order come from above that you better walk on eggshells and not say anything that's unproven because we don't want to get another $1.6 billion lawsuit. Because even if Fox News wins this lawsuit, just the legal fees to be in court in the first place are going to be exorbitant. And so they're not going to like that. So we'll see what ends up happening. But fact of the matter is, a lot of the claims were insane and malicious. So I understand where they're coming from. And in terms of the results, it could cut either direction. We'll just have to wait and see. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.